here to the Glenville State University Athletic Department, and we are back in the Waco Center for another edition of the Coaches Show. And our guest in this segment is head men's and women's track and cross country coach Dan Meyers. Coach, thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Route 33, I know you and I remember back at the inception of that event and the rendition of it here. It's survived through the other end of COVID and back over at D&E. We're always thinking about pointing the needle forward, and there were some faster times average across the board. What were some of your takeaways from last Friday morning at Elkins?
I think our aggressiveness, as you know, we made it off the start line, specifically in the guys' race. The girls raced pretty much the race plan or the scouting report to a T, which led to a lot of personal bests on that side. I think that the guys may have, in some realms, maybe started out a little too fast, but I think that's something we can dial back and we'll get a little bit smarter as we move forward. But Bryce ran probably, honestly, in program, dating back to when his dad ran, probably it was converted down at pretty historical time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking back on it, so that was really good to see, and I think that. In a smaller race, we learned to pinpoint who we need to be running with long term, looking into the conference meet. I also think that we really threw some punches at a team like Wesleyan. Obviously they still got us at the end of the day, and we have some, but I think we closed the gap as opposed to when we raced to them at Bethany, which was great.
Yeah, particularly with Bryce putting up the race he did, that low number would be even more exponential in a race with 30 or 40 more runners. So, I was playing with that during the soccer match on Sunday, I think it was 25:05.
Yep.
It converted out to it. Yeah, I'm like, wow, you're right, that is historic. But I think more than that, we talked about that Kate had beaten him and beat him, flat out, beat him up at Bethany, and then he beat him, this week and by a good margin. And it was solid both ways. A couple good runners battling and, good kids. And there were, he was coming on, had Emmerich in sight, but he beat a lot of very good runners from D&E and Wesleyan.
Looking back, I definitely exchanged some texts with Coach Piles, post race, and they have a great program, and they're top 5 in the region right now on the men's side, and they're looking to have a nationals bid. Who he finished right behind, a guy that's been so good, 5K, 10K wise, and I think a guy that. Outside of an Isaac Prather at Concord has a chance on the right day to win the region.
Yep.
I mean, that's
He's
how
that talented.
That's how good he is. So for Bryce to really mix it up with them and honestly feed off their energy, and when they made a push, he made a push, and then he ran with about 4 or 5 different people to end up in that second place throughout the race. And then looking at the guys, I made some notes. Bryce would. From 7K converting to the 8K we usually run. Bryce was 25:05. Blake would have been 26:09. A few guys in the 27s, and then Isaac had his best race that he's had in the 2 years that he's ran with us. So I think looking at that is a huge, flat course, but I think it's a huge confidence boost. Moving into a stretch of the season where we're going to be doing a little bit more hill work, doing a little bit more volume, and as we kind of prepare for the championship segment.
Yeah, and Blake, he's right. He got in the awards up there and breaking up the group, and BJ's coming on a little bit for you.
Absolutely.
On the women's side, with Olivia getting into money, about for being new college runner and going against a couple really good teams and getting in the mix like that.
She's just so controlled, and I think that from a cardio perspective, she looked great. And I think they ended up being about a 40-second personal best for her, which is great. Second meet into her college career. Sam had over a minute personal best. Summer had a personal best. Kira, obviously not many 5Ks under her belt, but she's ran a few for fun, and matching this one up, it was worlds better.
Yeah.
I think once Sarah kind of closes the gap to where they're at, I think that we'll have I think we'll surprise some people, honestly, and I think it's just great to have 5 girls who were within small margins in workouts, and we had a golf course workout on Fartlek out at the golf course on Tuesday, and generally from 1 to 5, I thought it was a very good spread, which I think is going to help us move later in the season. But a lot of I think honestly, even more than the guys side, they felt even more confidence being able to keep some runners from some good schools like Wesleyan or D&E in distance, and realizing that they're not as far away as what they think they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not a big fan of the flat courses in cross country, and I always said God gave us track season for a reason. But there's some value to that, the kids seeing those times as an affirmation of their improving fitness.
Yes, I think Bethany's, like we talked about last week, Bethany, very fair course, some rolling hills and things like that. Early season, we threw down some good times there, but I think having this kind of flat course to really go out and look at it more of like, okay, this is like, I felt really tempoed on this flat course, and if we're able to dial this back just a little bit on a hilly course where things are really going to play out come conference time, like I said with the 7K to 8K conversions, these are 20 seconds a mile faster than where we're usually at. So I think even you give 10 seconds a mile, I think we're still way above well where we were this time last year, and I think high 26s is where Bryce's personal best has been. That was at Carnegie. Which ironically our next week, that was Carnegie last year, 2650s, and converting to 25.0s. I mean, that's crazy. Running 5 flat pace for that duration is showing where his hard work's really paid off.
Yeah, it looked great because he had fallen back, and he came back and reeled in second, and Emory never really pulled away from him after he made that move. You touched on about the golf course workout on Tuesday, not racing again until Carnegie Mellon. So that is the focus really of these 3 weeks as far as building the strength.
Yeah, so our Tuesdays have been out the track, and we've incorporated the kind of the hills of the trails behind the facility, which has been great. But I think getting more race simulation style workouts out on the golf course with the up and down hills, and we basically run the golf course in reverse. So for those that have been at the Glenville Golf Club, 9's a pretty substantial downhill that we're running up. And we like try to get at least a portion of our ons of the workout up that hill, and as we transition down. So those are going to be big. More threshold track style workouts on Fridays, and then honestly kind of still are peaking up the mileage before we kind of come back down for the latter 3 weeks of the season. So we'll see some of our biggest mileage weeks coming up in the next 1 to 2 weeks, and not a whole lot more than they experience in the summer in August and September, but about 5, 7, 10 miles more, and then we'll come back down. So still on the trajectory of being about 15 to 20 miles ahead of where we were this time last year, and a lot more consistent from week to week, which is great. And I know some of the athletes felt like they were running on some heavy legs at Route 33, but I think this time of the year that's fine. And specifically running on a flat, fast course, I think they'll be fine long term as we come down.
And we have a longer
off of
season
it.
with the the festival year. I'll tell you, the last question we get away from the performance side of it. But the team dynamic, it was just so good to see. I've been seeing it out here, when they're coming off the track, the 2 genders, supporting each other as one team, and then the track kids' involvement in those Fridays. It really seemed like they enjoyed being around each other, and I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. The girls' side, too, we talked about last time, doing the recovery day together. Really spending more time on the scouting report. Summer's been a great addition as far as that. She really, as even though new to our cross country team, but been at Glenville a while, she really honed in and really showed the girls that just because she's new to the sport, she looked up who she needed to run with from the other schools and really did the research. And I think that kind of opened their eyes and realized that we all need to be bought in like that. So I think that was great to see. And then the guys team, I think it really helps when they're so close. A lot of them came from the same high school or the same area, and they're such good friends. When we're switching out who our 4, 5, 6, 7 runner is, some of them might not have the day that they want. I think that there's not it's always before they say, I need to do better, they're congratulating, the ones that really did step up for us. So they're really putting the team first, and then, on their own, they're like, then I need to step up next time. So I think that's really came a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think we'll be talking next week, but we will be the following week because we're preparing, for the trip up to Shenley Park of that historic the historic grounds, the hallowed grounds up
Yes.
there. And excited for you to go back up there. So appreciate you being with us again, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you all for being with us. We will be talking to you again in a couple of weeks.